What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing a spoiler-free review of a new movie that just came out on digital called Dark Harvest, just in time for Halloween, and it's a creature feature. Let's check it out.
It's party time, yeah!
¿Qué es lo que te trajo hasta acá?
These evil people have just got to be stopped.
It's Voidtober!
So this is a movie that I was actually recommended. I wanted to jump into it just completely blind for the most part, but I couldn't help, and I actually read the description, and it'll make you very interested, so listen up. So this is a story that is about a small Midwestern town that takes place in somewhere around the 50s, where a legendary creature is haunting the corn rows of outside of town every October, and they've developed a way to save the town by turning it into a contest where the young men of their town have to fight it, and whoever beats it to the death and eats it can get a nice big prize in the town and become legendary heroes. When one of those townsfolk win and the next year comes about, we're thrown into the story that is pretty wild, interesting, and pretty bloody. This is a story that kind of has that vibe about it that is really dark. I love the aesthetic of the 50s that this takes place in because it's kind of interesting to throw this sort of modern twist into this old-timey town where this character, this creature is lurking and is fully known about by the town, and it's just a regular reality. There's something very appealing about trying to figure out why this is happening, and there won't be a whole lot of answers for everything, but there are some, and you start to figure out that this kid named Richie, who was the brother of one of the last winners, starts to want to be famous and be outside of the town too. He's sort of an outsider as it is, and it just kind of makes sense. Now, there is a lot of nods to some misfits in this movie. In fact, some of the characters in the movie, if you see the trailer, are wearing the Fiend mask from the band Misfits, and it actually is pretty cool because they actually say some Easter eggs throughout the movie, and I'm not sure why that is. This isn't a movie that's going to have like super deep layers to it, but on the surface, it is a really fun, dark, graphic story about this kid and getting out of town and what they have to do to get out of it. And I don't know if there's really any deeper meaning other than that, but I felt like the movie was going to have an extra twist to it that it didn't have, that wasn't already laid out to it in the beginning. And there's quite a few in this movie, but I kind of saw them coming a little bit. And I'm not saying that to brag. I just kind of pieced it together in my head just by the way that the townsfolk were acting. And so in that regard, it may be somewhat familiar. Like, it kind of reminds me of some other movies, especially because of the corn. There's like some obvious Children of the Corn reference stuff in there, but it's a little different. And there's, obviously they have to feed this beast every year in order to make the crops grow, and that's pretty much it. There's nothing really any more deep than that. And when this next year happens and you start to realize what's going on, the townsfolk are really weird. There's sort of this mystery going on, and just the creature just being out in the open sometimes is pretty wild. Now, this is a movie that was directed by David Slade, who is also the director of the Black Mirror Bandersnatch, which was like that interactive sort of thing on Netflix. I really, really enjoyed that one. And he also did the movie Hard Candy way back in the day, and he also did 30 Days of Night, so it's something I haven't talked about him in a long while. This story is actually based off a novel by Norman Patridge, who Jason, who told me about this movie, was just happened to be reading at the time. So the screenplay, however, is actually by writer-actor Michael Gillio, who actually did the screenplay for the new Dungeons and Dragons movie that did really well. Really entertaining written film, silly, fun. This is a little bit more on the serious side, obviously, and I think he does a really good job of turning this into a story. I mean, I haven't read the book, so I can't say, but the characters are pretty top-notch. In fact, some of the acting in this movie I thought was really pretty good, and I think that's what kind of helps push this movie over the just regular kind of batch of movies. First of all, I love creature feature films, and I'm always going to like them, and so if you put a creature that's lurking the fucking streets of Halloween, killing people off, and everybody knows about it and is out to kill it, that's pretty interesting to me, and it reminds me of like an anthology story that has has been turned into a really large story, you know, like a feature film. But they do a really good job of like padding it out. There's no like fluff. It actually feels pretty good. The characters, as I was mentioning, are really good. You get to follow this brother Richie, who's played by the actor Casey Likes, who's actually an Arizona native, by the way. Shout out. He was in the TV series The Birch, so this isn't even his first creature feature film, but he's also a writer and director and done his own stuff. Very talented individual, very charming on the screen. In fact, a lot of the people on the screen in this movie really played the part of that 50s thing. Another outspoken individual who really added another layer to this movie was the love interest in the movie, who is Kelly, but it's played by actress Amiri Crutchfield, who has done a lot of other work, including True Detective and Roots. She was really good, and the two of them were really good together. I thought they did a really good job bouncing off each other and the camaraderie. And plus, you know, the characters that were written for them are really cool. So they're like kind of like, they're not just boring nothing characters. They like actually do stuff. We also get a really pretty wild and like notched up to 60 performance by the town police officer, who is Officer Ricks in this movie, played by Luke Farrell Kirby, who does a really fantastic job. He was in the TV series The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which is pretty damn good. I didn't watch it myself, but I heard nobody say really anything bad about it. So he's really pretty wild in the movie, and he adds this extra layer to the film as well. But there is a mystery going on, and I think you'll enjoy it. I think most mainstream people who are casual viewers of this might grasp onto this as a more unique creature feature film than they've seen in a while. So I think that's a good thing, but it's also got some like depth to it as far as like acting and camera work and music and vibe about it. So it is definitely something for the tried and true horror fans as well. And I think it's kind of got a good mix. It kind of fits a little bit in the middle of that. Now, the graphic scenes in this movie were pretty damn good. Probably one really standout one and a second one that was pretty awesome. Plus, there's a couple of like regular scenes that are just out in the open. Now, one thing I did notice is that this isn't all practical, so they do use a little bit of CGI to kind of touch it up and make it look good. I would say probably is comparable to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. If you saw that movie, you can kind of tell, but it's blended. So, you know, there's a real creature, a man standing in a suit, but they kind of doll him up with a little bit of CGI just to make it a little bit more creepy, which you need to do in this particular situation because the creature does look pretty cool. And I really like seeing this creature. So it was nice to look at and kind of be freaked out by. This thing's pretty brutal too. So it really does dispatch people in some pretty awesome ways for the most part. That's what turned me on, is the aggressiveness of this thing. It was not just, simple, silly crap. Like, don't get me wrong, I like me a Pumpkinhead movie, but this I feel like is a little bit more aggressive than that movie. It's a pretty obvious twist. I think you'll figure it out probably more than halfway through. I literally called it in the very beginning, like I said, so that kind of ruined it for me. So I feel like I should have just turned my brain off a little bit and just enjoyed the film, because it is very straightforward and very solid filmmaking, well above average in my opinion, especially with the aesthetic thing that they're doing in this small Midwestern town. So I think if I had to give this a score, I would definitely give it a 7.5 or an 8. And I think it's more of an 8. Like, it's right on the line though, like a very hard 8, but for some people it might be a little lower, but still enjoyable. And I think it's definitely worth a rent and definitely worth a watch if you're looking for something that's a creature feature. This is definitely going to be something very interesting, not too heady. So if you just want to kind of enjoy it and not have to think about it, this will be something good for you. But yeah, thanks for the suggestion, Jason. I'm glad. I really did like it. It wasn't my favorite film of the year, but damn, what a solid fucking creature feature film. I really like it. It has more to it than just a regular creature feature. It's a good film to watch, one that's not even spoken about really at all, so I'm surprised I haven't heard more about it. I definitely think this would be a good one to watch for the Halloween season, that's for sure, or Voidtober as you know it by us. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Are you a creature feature fan? Like, do you like stories like this? Does it sound interesting to you? Are you gonna rent it? It's up now for $5.99 on Amazon and YouTube. That's where I got it, is on Amazon. So if you want to check it out now, you can. But other than that, thank you guys so much for coming by, and there's more on the way. Happy Voidtober, everybody. It's still going. And check out the most recent unboxing and review of one of the most disturbing films I've seen in my life. One of. called August Underground's Mortem. It's a film that got suppressed because the film's so bad. There's nothing in the video that's bad, but for whatever reason, YouTube blocked it. So if you can give that video some love, I would greatly appreciate it. But yeah, guys, thanks so much for coming by. And as always, long live the void.